Hi everybody, I'm Mrs. World of Wayne and welcome to my crafting world. And this time round we are now on part 4 of the Cutebee Quiet House. So at the end of the last stage we had actually completed one of the kitchen units that had the sink on it. We did have a few issues with the sink, and what I'm going to do is show you how to make a template so that that actual sink is one whole piece. This is a normal box, and at the moment it's a 3D shape. Now, to enable us to get this 3D shape, we need a net. And if we open the box out, the shape we have here becomes the net. Okay, so at school, when I teach the children 3D shape and we look at building 3D shapes, this is what we call the net. The only difference with this to what we would actually class is we wouldn't have tabs on it, right? But actually, for the purpose of making a 2D shape into something that's 3D, obviously tabs is the easiest way to go, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about the sink. So, what I've done is on some of the pattern pieces we had extra pattern pieces for the sink. So I cut them out already, and then what I've done is I've stuck them onto this piece of card. So this is just a normal box, nothing special. But as you can see, I've stuck them next to each other. So it looks like I've got one continuous shape. Then what I'm going to do, just to make it easier for when I'm sticking them together, and I'm going to do this with a Sharpie so that you can see what I'm doing. Obviously, you'd probably just use a pencil. But we just need a few tabs, okay? They don't have to be anything special, but these are what we're going to stick to the sides. So I'm just going to put my tabs here. And now all we do is cut it all out, but we cut it out as one continuous piece. Okay, and there you have it. So all we're going to do now is score along these lines and then fold it. Now, if you were making this into the sink, you'd need to stick this then onto your silver paper, and this would form the outside. So when you're folding it, you would then fold it the opposite direction. So all you see is the silver paper. So when we're scoring something, we just want to gently, all right, we're not there to cut anything, but we're just literally, so edge of a pair of scissors is perfect for this. And you just want one continuous line where the folds are going to be. All right, so that's the key thing, it's where the folds are. And obviously when you are scoring, don't score that silver paper because that's just going to rip. Now we've scored them, all we need to do is to fold it up like so. The little tabs we made, I know I drew little black lines and then I suddenly realised I didn't need to have drawn the black lines at all. Okay, so what we can now do is just pop some glue on each of the tabs, like so. So all the time, the shape is flat like this, 2D. Okay, and then, but this shape is a net because this makes the 3D shape that I needed. And as you can see, it goes together and looks a lot better. So there you have it. That's, I think, the simplest way to actually make that sink so that it looks good and stays in place. So now what we've got to do is we've got a fridge freezer to make, and we've got 2 more kitchen units to make. So let's get crafting. Okay, so if we take a look at our instructions, what we're going to build in today is this part here. So we need B13 and B12, and that's going to make up the frame of our fridge. So I've already pre-sorted the sections I need. So to speed the process up, I have already glued the outer edges onto one of the sides of the fridge freezer, like so. And the two shorter ends, they actually glue onto the outside. All right, so when we come to stick our final piece in, it's actually going to go in between these two pieces at the end. Okay, I'm just going to place some glue on the end. So we're going to end up with a unit that looks like this. Okay. Do you remember the old MFI kitchen units that you used to build yourself? This is what we've got here. So what I'm going to do is, while that dries, I'm going to put that to one side. Oh, it's a bit skewy. Just straighten it up a little bit. I'm going to put this to one side, and we're going to make a frying pan. So this is the frying pan we're going to be making here. And what we need is H15, which looks just like that, and G28. Now G28 is some plastic, some wire wrapped in plastic. All right, we use that time and time again. So please make sure that once you've used it, you know exactly where you've put it. And this is what it looks like. Now it says in the instructions that we need a length of about 3.5 centimetres. So 3.5 centimetres is about here. I'm just going to get Wayne's sprue cutters and just chop that bit off. This bit I'm going to put away safely. So this is where it can get quite fiddly, because what I actually need to do is I actually need to bend this so that it looks just like that here. Now it does give you some measurements. It's saying roughly that if you fold it 1.5 centimetres and have 5 millimetres left at the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of wire and we're going to use some of the rounded nosed pliers to actually bend. We want a nice rounded bit at the base, like so. And we want this section here to meet in the middle as it does. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bend over the ends. And we only want to bend those over a little bit. You've got to remember, once again, talked about size last time. But can you see? Now I've got two ends. I hold it like that. And it's these two ends here that are going to be glued on to the metal disc that is the frying pan. I'm just going to pop a bit of glue on there, and then I'm going to attach it to the frying pan, like so. And once again, I'm just going to set that to one side to dry. The other item that goes on top of the hob is this item here, and this is H16. So it's just a bead, and it's got a small hole and a larger hole, and all we need to do is to actually glue this onto the hob, like so. I'm actually going to paste the glue directly onto the surface here. It makes more sense to do it that way. And then just using the tweezers, I'm just going to pop it into place. And when the frying pan has dried, that will be stuck onto this side. So this now is this section complete. And we can now go back to the fridge freezer, which is now looking something like that. Now the fridge freezer comes with two doors, B15 and B14. And onto those we stick C18. Once again, it's just those little handles. Okay, so the thin pieces of wood that we stick on as handles. Now what you need to remember with this is it is a fridge freezer. So when we stick the doors onto the framework, we want those handles to be near each other. So when you're sticking the handles on, just like a normal fridge freezer, okay, so if I just bring that closer into the camera here, these handles need to be towards the top of the door. And once again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the frame. I'm going to glue all the way around the frame. because we might as well stick both doors on at the same time. So I'm going to do this, for me, I'm going to do this upside down so that you can see it. So this is the top bit. So that's going to sit just like that. And here's the bottom door. Just like so. If I just hold that up, another thing worth pointing out is that these panels here come with a rounded top and a flat bottom. So when you're actually sticking them on, you need to make sure that the rounded pieces, so for the freezer compartment, I'm assuming this would be the rounded parts go at the top. For the fridge compartment, the rounded bits would go at the bottom. There is a difference. We can just line those up until we're happy. And then again, we're just going to pop that to one side just so that that can give that time to dry. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to this unit here. And this is actually a wall unit. All right. So we need C19 and C20 to begin with. So what I'm going to just double check using the template is, because I've got two pieces very similar in length, just the width is different. So I'm just going to double check to see which one of those is the C20 that I need. And if I look over here, there's C20, and I can clearly then see that it is the wider one that I want. So this is the one I'm going to keep. The other one's going to pop back in the box. And in the same way as we did with the base unit and with the fridge freezer, we need to stick these two ends onto the two ends of C20. Now looking at the instructions, these ends are going to sit on top of this. They're not sitting to the side, they're actually going to sit on top. And once again, I'm just going to leave this to one side to dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, we can start to assemble the doors. Now you will find that you need here section C22. And section C22 is a piece of blue wood like this, and it actually has 3 lines cut into it. So it is one solid piece, but you've got the 3 lines. And what this does is this just shows the division for the doors. All right, and onto there you're going to stick C23, and C23 are these door handles here. Right, so make sure this is a wall unit, those handles need to go roughly into the middle. So while we're waiting for the base unit, the wall unit to dry, our fridge freezer is nice and dry. So what we can now start to do is to assemble the kitchen and glue the pieces in. So I'm going to bring in the kitchen for you. And what we're going to do is the sink unit goes here with the sink here under the window. And then the fridge freezer is going to stand there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the bases and I'm going to get those stuck in. Remember, these aren't actually toys, so the items are meant to be stuck down. That is absolutely up to you, whether you do or not, but I will be. So I'm going to give a good double of glue onto the base of my fridge freezer. And I'm also just going to give a glue to the edge so that I can stick it to the back of the kitchen wall. And then we have the fridge freezer stuck in, and now we can paste this unit here. For this again, I'm just going to paste around the edges just so that there is something to stick onto the walls. I love this type of glue. This is the type of glue we use in school. Well, obviously very similar to a PVA, like I said last time. It's just not as watery. And if you get it on yourself, it just peels off. So now I'm going to very carefully stick this unit into the kitchen, like so. Now that the frying pan handle is stuck on, I can now get this glued into position as well. Because this has a larger bottom, I'm going to glue directly onto it. And then using my tweezers, I'm going to put it in place. So you can see that it's on the oven there, but as every good cook knows, you never have the handle of a pan sticking out over the edge. So I'm just going to twizzle that round. Got a life of its own. So that the handle is actually resting on the surface, like so. So I can now move this back and we can carry on with the wall unit. So I'm going to bring back our wall unit here. So this part here is actually forming the bottom of the cupboard. The drawers are going to be stuck onto the front like so. So I'll add some glue to that and now get those glue pasted on. Now with the doors, once again, they are going to sit just snugly inside. So it's going to be the edge that you're going to be gluing of the door, not of the unit. And then we can slot this in. Now, in the past, when I've made other models, to keep sections like this together while they're gluing, I have actually used elastic bands. So that's quite a good option. But what you need is an elastic band that's the right size. So it gives it enough pressure to hold them together without too much that it's going to collapse on you. So I'm going to get these stuck in. I need to add a little bit more pressure to mine because the base of mine is actually bowed slightly, the piece of wood. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there is actually a bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this to one side and use some pressure just to try and keep this all flat. So this is section C21, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to paste this onto the top of the cabinet. I think once that's on there, it'll give it a little bit more rigidity, so it might make it actually easier to secure while it's sticking. I'll tell you this much, this cabinet does not want to stick. It doesn't help that the piece at the bottom is bowed. So hopefully by sticking in the top piece, it's just going to give that little bit of a helping hand.
A few moments later.
This piece here actually forms the extractor fan, which will go underneath the cupboard that we've just created and sit over top of the cooker. So what we're going to do is we need to cover this now with silver paper. So our silver paper was G16. So here we have G16. I told you you had to look after it so that you didn't lose it. Now in the instructions, what they actually want us to do is to cover the edge of this, so there is a nice silver edge to it, and the top needs to be covered. So they're saying cover the top and cover the edge. So let's do that now. So what I've done is I placed the template on the edge and I've marked a line, and I'm now going to cut that out. And I am actually going to use scissors to cut this out. So I've got a nice score mark that I've done, and I'm just going to cut that. And then I'm going to glue the edges of this and literally roll it along. I'm going to place it at the edge. And just carefully wrap the edges in the silver paper. And you're going to end up with something that looks like this. So now what we need to do is to cut out section 214, and this forms top, or the actual extractor fan itself. So that's going to be glued onto there. So that looks like that. Now what it's asking us to do is to take section C16. Now C16 is a strip of black like this, and we need to cut that out. Now I think this is way too small to cut out with a craft knife. You haven't got a lot of paper. When you use the craft knife, you do need to make sure that you've got plenty of paper around it, otherwise it's just going to slip. And what we need to do is we need to glue that I'm hoping you can see at the bottom here, it looks again like there's some sort of LED display. Now we need to stick that black line here. All right. So wherever your LED display is, it's going to go along that long edge. So that's what I'm going to do now. Once it's on, like so, I can just manipulate it with the tweezers so that it's straight. We've now got the main part of our extractor fan. Now in the instructions, it does say that this section here should be covered in silver paper. I don't see the point because this bit is going to be stuck under the cupboard. You're not actually going to see it. So I'm not going to bother doing that. But what I am going to do is get section B16 and glue that just on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to one side while we are waiting for everything to glue. So the final bit that we need for our sink is to actually make the tap or the faucet. So what we need to do is to get G33. Now G33 is this piece of wire here. It's quite thick, but it's also very malleable as well. And they're saying here that we need to cut one piece, so it's a mixer tap, 18 millimeters, so 1.8 centimeters, and then we're literally going to bend it in half. So I am going to be good, and I am going to get my ruler out. So I want 1.8, and again, use my sprue cutters and just chop it. Again, keep hold of this, you're going to need it later. And we're going to bend this in half. So again, I'm going to use the round nose pliers because that'll give a nice bend. And by pushing the metal up towards the end, all right, it's going to help us get the bend in the right place. So now we've got it bent in half, and then we're literally just going to grab the end and focus it down. So that it looks, if I hold it with the pliers actually, it looks like this. Pretty cool, huh? And to actually make it look as though we've got the bits that you twist, we're actually going to use a bead. And the beads are found in bag H along with all the other beads. And what we're going to do is we're going to get those stuck on. So I'm going to bring back our kitchen. I'm going to lay it down. I'm hoping everything is glued in place now so that it's not going to move. So here you go. So you can now actually see where the sink is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some glue on the end of our tap and stick that in, and then the beads will go next to it. Now obviously, again, if you've got maybe some putty or something to hold this in place, because I'm not quite sure whether this is going to stick first time. It may be that we need to get a little bit of super glue on this. So that's glued in really well. And then what I'm going to do is now just either side with a bit of super glue, I'm just going to pop one of those beads. So as you can see, we've now got the tap and we've now got the two twisty on things. Don't know what they're called. Just haven't always known it's a tap. So that looks pretty good. So our kitchen looks really, really good. All we've got to do is to get the cabinet above the top here, and then we're almost finished. So here you have it. So there's our wall unit. Okay, it did take a long time to dry. I did put some super glue in the end, purely because my section is bowed. What I probably should have done in hindsight is put it in some water. I tried to put it under something heavy, but that didn't make any difference. So probably putting it into water would have helped. But this is all done now, and now we're going to paste this to the wall. And this is going to be going onto the wall here. Now you do have some dash lines. Now that's where the floor above is going. So it can't go any higher than that. You obviously don't want it going into this section up here. It's got to stay low.
A few moments later.
So now you can see that the wall unit is actually in. Now mine isn't dry, so what I'm going to do is I am now going to leave it on its end for an hour or so, or even overnight. I don't need to touch this model again for the time being, so that this is all stuck securely. So that's the kitchen almost finished. The last two things we have are these two beads here, G40 and G41, and these sit, I'm going to show you on the picture, these sit just inside the kitchen there. So what I'm going to do is just get those glued in, and then we can have a look at the kitchen in its entirety. And there you have it. And now we have our complete kitchen. That looks really good. And next time we'll be moving on to the dining area. So if you're enjoying this build, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that you can continue with the build with me. Thanks everybody. Bye for now. Oh shit, and I've recorded it all on the wrong camera. Oh well.